So again, with the methods that we've learned already, there's the graphing that we did last week, addition elimination that we did yesterday, and then today we're going to learn solving by substitution. I recommend that you find 2 of those 3 methods that you are comfortable with and that you know how to do, because again, sometimes one method is easier than another, so having 2 that you're good with will help you out. When we have the quiz and the test, you are going to be able to use any method that you want, so I'm not going to specifically say use graphing or use elimination, so it's just up to you whatever method you want, but I recommend you have at least 2 under your belt that you're ready to use. So today, how to solve by substitution. The first thing you want to do is solve one of the equations for one of the variables. It doesn't matter which variable, just go with whatever one is easiest to get by itself. Doesn't matter which one, go with whatever is easiest. So with our example over here with these 2 equations, the easiest variable to get by itself will always be a variable that, I'll go back in a minute, will be the variable that doesn't have a number out in front of it, because that means you won't have to do any division, so you probably won't have any fractions to deal with. Yes? I'll go back in a minute, but I've been going. So in this case, this x right here is the variable that doesn't have a number out in front of it, or the number in front is that implied 1. So what would I do to get that x by itself? Add 2y to both sides. So then I'd have x equals -3 plus 2y. So I've solved one of the equations for a variable. So it doesn't matter which equation and it doesn't matter which variable. I just have to get one variable by itself. Okay, so again, you can solve for any one, but if one of the variables just has that 1 or doesn't have any other coefficient out in front, that will be the quickest and easiest one to get by itself. Okay, so now you're going to take that equation that now has a variable by itself, and you are going to plug it in to the other equation for that variable. Okay, then it's just going to become a distributing, combining like terms, simplifying problem from there. So what we do, we got x by itself in our second equation. So that means we are going to take what x is equal to, which is -3 plus 2y. We're going to plug that in for x into the other equation. You can't plug it back into the equation because it's the same thing. You got to plug it back into the other one. So this is going to go into our first equation for x. Whenever you plug something in for x, you want to put it in parentheses. So we'll have 5.
Just make x -3 and then just combine it.
We have -3 plus 2y. There's that 2y there.
But then minus 4y, right? So can we just combine those?
Well, hang on, because it's being multiplied by 5. So I'll show you in a second. So we got to plug it in first. So we have 5, and then in parentheses, we'll have whatever x equals, which is -3 plus 2y. Darn it. Then we have minus 4y equals 9. Okay, any questions this far? So we're just plugging x into parentheses right where x is in the other equation. Make sure you don't forget everything else that's happening too, like the minus 4y and the equals 9. Okay, so now, now what we're going to do is step 3. We're going to distribute, combine like terms, and solve for the variable.
-15y plus 10y minus 4y equals 9.
Yep. So we will take this 5, which is outside the parentheses, and we will distribute it. So 5 times -3 and 5 times 2y. Then we still have our minus 4y equals 9. Okay, combine like terms. So we have a 10 plus 10y minus 4y gives us 6y. And now I just got to solve for y. So how do I get y by itself? Add 15 to both sides. Then, yep, you divide by 6. So you get y equals 4. Okay, so now, just like how we did yesterday with the elimination, once you get one variable, then to get the other one, because remember a solution is a point, so we need an x and a y variable. To get the other variable, you can plug it back in to either of your equations and solve for your remaining variable. Now, in this case, solve for remaining variable. Right at the beginning, we rearranged one of our equations so that x was by itself, which means if we just plug our y back into this equation, our rearranged one, it'll tell us what x is right off the bat, and we won't have to do any extra solving. So if you want to plug it back into one of the two original ones, that's fine. You just have to do a little bit of extra solving for x. But in this case, our life can be made a little bit easier because we already did that rearranging part. We already did the solving. So if I just take my x equals negative 3 plus 2y and plug in 4 for y, then we'll get what x is equal to right off the bat. So we'll have negative 3 plus 8, which means x is equal to 5. So my solution will be the point 5, 4. Okay, but again, you can plug that variable back into either of the equations, and it will give you the same value.
I hate
Oh, stop it. All right, so let's do another one.
Wait,
So example, what?
I didn't make that up there, I'm sorry.
So example 1, solve by substitution. Again, first step is to get a variable by itself. So looking at our options here, we have a 5x and a y, a 7x and a 4y. Which variable would be the easiest to get by itself? Yeah, the y in this first one, because there's no variable out in front. So what would I do to get that y by itself?
Divide or multiply.
Minus 5x, because it's a positive already. So we'd have y equals 11 minus 5x. Okay, then we take what that y equals. Gentlemen? We take what that y equals. Please stop talking. And we plug it back into the other equation, so the second equation, for y. We use parentheses, so we'll have 7x minus 4, and then in parentheses what y equals, 11 minus 5x equals 10. Then yet we distribute, so negative 4 times 11 is negative 44. Negative 4 times a negative 5x is a positive 20x. So you got to be careful with signs. Then equals 10. We can combine like terms. We have 7x plus 20x give us 27x, and minus 44 equals 10. Then to solve for x, we would add 44 to both sides. 27x equals 54. Divide by 27. We get x equals 2. What? This part's easy. You just got to plug it back in. So we have up here, we have an equation with y by itself already. So we can plug in 2 for x into that equation. So y equals 11 minus 5 times 2, which, yes, will give us 11 minus 10, which is 1. See? I told you it's not bad. No, hang on. So then our solution, guys, shh. Please. Our solution will be the point 2, 1. Again, make sure you're writing your answer as a point with an x and a y value.
Alright.
Okay, so if we look at example 2, Margie is responsible for buying a week's supply of food and medication for the dogs and cats at a local shelter. The food and medication for the dogs costs twice as much as those supplies for the cats. She needs to feed 164 cats and 24 dogs. Her budget is $4,240. How much can Margie spend on each dog for food and medication? So we want to define our variables. We're asking how much. So our variables are going to be the cost per dog, and the y will be the cost per cat. Or again, if you want to flip what you have x and y represent, that's fine, as long as you are defining your variables. Okay, so then we need to write our equation. So our first one, we have the food and medication for the dogs, which is x, costs, which means equals, guys, you're not paying attention, cost twice as much as those supplies for the cats. What would twice as much look like? 2y, yes. Okay, so that's our first equation. Then she needs to feed 164 cats and 24 dogs with a total cost of $4,240. So this is a total right here, the 4,240. So one of our equations will equal 4,240. Then to get the rest of the equation, if we take the number of dogs times the cost per dog, that'll give us the total amount of money for dogs, so 24x, plus the total number of cats times the cost per cat. Thanks. Any questions about setting up these two equations? Okay. So now, our step 1, this x is already by itself, so we don't have to do any extra solving. This x is already alone. So what we can do is go straight to our next step, which is where we take what x equals, 2y, and plug it into the other equation for x. Okay, so then we'll have, I'll go up here.
Parentheses.
Yep, 24 parentheses. Always use parentheses whenever you're plugging anything in. Plus,
Parentheses are on the y.
yep, around the whole thing that you're plugging in. Plus 164y equals 4,240. Then we can multiply, so we have 24 times 2 gives us 48y plus 164y equals 4,240.
Can we make the extra the same so?
So we can add together 48y plus 164y. What does that give me?
202, I think. So I'm lying.
212. Close. 212y equals 4,240. And to get y by itself, we can divide by 212. What will that give me?
I don't know.
What? The 4,240 divided by 212 would give you 20. And what is y representing? Yeah, so $20 per dog. But we still need to figure out, oh, for cat, sorry, for cat. Y is cat. Sorry. Yeah, so then to figure out for dog, again, we have our equation over here that has x by itself already. So if we plug in our 20 that we have for y into that, we'll have x equals 2 times 20, which gives us $40 per dog. And that is the answer to the question, is asking how much do we spend for dogs. So when we have word problems, guys, you have to make sure that you are being careful as to what the question is actually asking you. Sometimes it'll only be asking you for one variable. So that's why defining your variables is very important. Okay, on the back, now we're going to take a look at what it would look like to have the infinite or no solutions doing this method, so you can identify those. So example 2a, what variable would be the easiest to get by itself? Y in the second equation. So what would we do to get y by itself? plus 4x. So we'll have y equals 14 plus 4x. We take that, what y equals, plug it into the other equation for y. So we'll have 12x minus 3, then parentheses, 14 plus 4x equals negative 42. Then we distribute. So 12x, then we have 3 times 14, which is negative 52. Oh, 42, sorry, you're right. Negative 42, and then negative 3 times 4x. Negative 12x equals negative 42. We combine like terms. We have 12x minus 12x, which gives us what? 0. So we're left with negative 42 equals negative 42. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, this is true, which means what? Infinite solutions.
You're supposed to eat something before you take motion, right?
That's helpful. Okay, then our last one, letter B over here. Which variable is the easiest to get by itself? The x, this first x up here. So we can subtract 3y from both sides to get x by itself. So x equals negative 6 minus 3y. We take what x is equal to, plug it into our other equation for x. So we'll have negative 3 and then parentheses, negative 6 minus 3y minus 9y equals 6.
Isn't it plus 9?
It's a minus.
Because
We're not, I haven't distributed, I just plugged it in right now. So then we distribute. So we'll have 18, a positive 18, and then yes, a plus 9y. Then we solve our minus 9y equals 6. When we combine like terms, plus 9y minus 9y, what is that going to equal? 0. I'm left with 18 equals 6. Is that true? No, this is false. Which means no solution. Okay, you guys have any questions? The main thing here is just making sure you're plugging that rearranged equation back into the other equation. That's going to be the main thing you remember to do.